Hey developers! Today we're going to learn about Vue. We're going to create a checkout app and we're going to look at the v-model directive. If this is the first time watching this channel, welcome. Please click on that subscribe button. That really helps me out. I teach a lot about your favorite frameworks, including Aurelia, Vue, and Ember.js, and I also do developer interviews and I give advice. So if that's what you like, please click that subscribe button. Now let's begin. Hey, so last time we left off, we had added Bootstrapped and jQuery to our Vue app. If you are confused, then take a look at the playlist I have for Vue. In the previous video, I created an app with Bootstrap and jQuery. So you can see here on the screen, this is how I did it. Now I went ahead, just for time's sake, I went and created a Bootstrap form for us. So let's take a look. So if you look at app.vue, I created a new checkout component, and I went ahead and imported checkout from component checkout, which is here, and you can see here in the directory structure here. And I went ahead and deleted out the default hello one in there and just made sure checkout was in there. Now inside the checkout component, I went ahead and used some form groups, and I used some Bootstrap to create a checkout page. It still has div class hello here, but it doesn't really matter. And inside this div class, I have this nav bar. You can see here. I have this nav bar, and inside the nav bar, I have a header. It just says checkout page. You can see here. And then I have just a little checkout button using the graphic icon that comes with it. And then inside our main here, I have a few rows, and each row is a different column, different button here. So I have a panel heading, a panel body, form group, and then I used the grid layout with the column middle 12. And then I use 6, and I have a first name and a last name and an address and a zip. And then underneath here, I put a just something so we can see the output of each one of these. So if you don't know, there is something called a v-model, and the v-model allows us to do a two-way binding in our template to one of our input form controls. So you can put it on radio buttons, checkboxes, and select options. Right now we're just going to do a normal input text box, but we can do it for text areas and other things as well, and components too, for that matter. We can show that later. So let's take a look here. For first, if we go back down, we can see here's our next tick where we had the fade in. But we do have our return object, and I guess we're not really using the message, are we? Yeah, so we can delete the message. But let's create a checkout object. And this object's going to hold all our values. So we can do something like this. We can call it, well, just for the sake, we're going to call it order. And we're going to make it an empty object for now. And then what we can do is we can go back to our input. Here's our first name. And we can use the v-model, directive. And then we can put the name of the object that we just created. So let's do let's do order dot first name, and we compiled okay. Still, we don't have anything here in our first name box. So if we go back down, let's go back to the so here's our first name in this box here. So let's go ahead, and remember inside Vue you have to have these double curly braces, and we can put in a name of one of our properties in our data object. So we're going to do order.firstName, and we're going to save it. So you can see here, right here, I have a first name, and I can type stuff. Let me refresh it, and we don't see anything. So wonder why. So we can go back down here to our order object, and we see that it's just an empty object, but let's add a property here. Let's add first name and we'll save it. Now let's type something. Okay, now you can see here as I type it, it's being added in here. So you can see Erik can't chat. So this is what's called two-way data binding, because as I'm typing this, it's being updated in the template in the same time, real time. So they are hooked together. So let's go. One other thing we can do. So we have this order.firstName here. Let's go ahead and add a couple more. We're going to add one here. We're going to add a v-model. Let's do order.lastName. And we'll, for the address, v-model order.address. And you can name these whatever you want. And right here, I'm going to put in a v-model order.zip. And then inside here, we're just going to put those in here. Order.lastName, order.address, order. Well, we have city in here. We don't have a city, but we do have a zip. Order.zip. Okay, so we have them all in there, and let's just go down here, and to be explicit, we can go ahead and add all these in here. So we have last name. We can also put default values here, address, and zip. So we'll save it. Now if we type in the first name, we see that. If we type in the last name, we see being is updated. We address 1532 123 Street. And we can put it zip code 782. So everything's being updated in real time there. It's all way two-day data bind. Another thing we could do is in this first name, we actually have some modifiers that we can use. So there's 3 modifiers that we can use with the v-model directive. And they are, if I double check here, there's .number, .trim, and .lazy. So let's take a look at the first one. So if we can go v-model.trim, and we'll refresh it here. So if we type in like a bunch of spaces and type in Erik, you could see down at the bottom of the screen here that you don't have any spaces here. It's automatically trimming it. I mean, you could do hand chat here. You could see in this one we don't have the .trim, and you see a big space right there. But in this case, if we put spaces before or after, it trims it, which is really handy. So that's one of the modifiers that you have, v-model.trim. Another, let's say, is v-model. We can go to the zip. It's a v-model.number. And what this does is, by convention, all these inputs usually come over as strings, but by putting a .number, it comes over as a number. So if we put in a number here, of course it works. I'm typing in keys here, and it's not working because it's expecting a number, even though we have type number here. So let's delete the type number just to see what it shows if we don't have that in there. So since we can type this in, but if we do 89523, and let's go back down here and let's do the JavaScript type of. And so you can see here it comes over as a number. Obviously, if you put a string, it comes over as a string. But if you put a number, it comes over as a number, which is what we want. So we don't have to do any kind of type of conversion inside our JavaScript. On the other hand, if we didn't have this .number here, I could show you. We'll save it. And we start typing in here a number. See, it always comes over as a string. You can see here it says zip string. So that's one way of doing it. So we don't have to worry about. Here we can do this. Type equals number. So that's one way you can guarantee that it's a number. And then the last kind of modifier is .lazy, which changes the way it binds. So if we do .lazy here to this order address, refresh it, and if you see I'm typing here, it's not automatically syncing 123 street. But if I click out and I lose focus, and then it updates. So it changes the time that it updates to some time later. So that's pretty handy. There's actually, those are the three main ones for v-model. If you're thinking about one-way data binding, there are ways of doing that. By default, if you're passing in stuff into components, the properties go in, they're immutable. They actually, the convention is that you send properties in and then you send actions back up to change those, so you don't necessarily change them. It's not supposed to be two-way data binded. There's also something called v.once, which is another way of doing two-way data binding. You can see here I'm typing in a name and it's not being reflected down there because it only binds it once. So if we went back to order.lastName, here at the bottom, we can put a default value. Actually, that doesn't work either. Yep, you can see right there. Right there, it bound to Hanchet. But if you change it, it's not going to automatically update or anything like that because it's kind of one way. So those are just a quick few things on the v-model directive and v-once. On the next videos, I'll talk a little bit more about looping. Thanks. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button. That really helps me out. And thank you. Please leave a comment below if you have any questions. Take care.